Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Start Inspired. I'm your host, Samantha March. I am looking forward to this week's episode because it's going to be a bit of a part 2 from last week where I was talking about my experience with cycle syncing and how I tried it for about a year and what I learned. So if you haven't listened to that first episode, I would definitely recommend to give that one a listen. And then in this second video, I wanted to follow up a little bit more about my fitness routine and how I kind of changed it, not only after my diagnosis with PCOS, but also as I started to learn about the cycle syncing method and how it kind of sets you up so your routine follows your different hormones and how they fluctuate throughout your menstrual cycle. So that is what I'm going to be jumping into today. And as always, if you are watching on YouTube, I hope that you will like the video, leave me a comment, subscribe to this channel. This is my second YouTube channel where I focus more on lifestyle-based videos. I do have a main channel which is focused on beauty as well, but I do post my podcast here on the second channel. Or if you are listening on Spotify or Apple iTunes, you can rate and review or give it a screenshot, post it, let me know that you are listening. And I am by Samantha March on Instagram. But like I said, I'm excited to jump into this topic because cycle syncing is something that I definitely learned a lot about. Again, since doing it for about a year, I was able to notice quite a few changes in my body, even in things like my PMS symptoms. I mentioned in the last episode that after really consistently following, what foods are best to eat at what time, I changed up my workout schedule. I started focusing more on, low stress and just cutting out things that weren't great for me. After those first several months, I lost my PMS symptoms, which did not make me angry. And then I, fell off a little bit of following cycle syncing when my dog was diagnosed with cancer, and I just was having a really tough time and, still kind of feeling like I'm in survival mode. And my symptoms came back: cramps, bloating, fatigue, brain fog, cravings, crazy thoughts, all of those things. So it definitely made me look at the past several months and think, wow, I was really on to something there. And it's interesting because I mentioned in that last episode that I was a little bit nervous to talk about it because no matter what, whenever I share about cycle syncing or what I'm trying or what I'm doing or what worked for me, I will always have, at least one person saying this isn't a real thing. On my TikTok, when I posted a few different shorts, someone called it a trend. I think there's a lot of things that are trends. Latte makeup being one at the moment. I don't really it's just like bronzy makeup is now called latte makeup. Like, sure. Wide-legged pants, sure, trend. She also made sure to point out in the comment that she didn't feel this under-researched trend was actually beneficial. And I wanted to touch on that as well, but it's why I said I sometimes don't really enjoy sharing about it, because there's always someone in the comments that has something to say about this. What's wild to me is it's usually women, which is pretty sad. I think women I was talking about this in one of my group chats the other day, but women seem to have this desire to help one another. We have a desire for community. We have a desire to let us know about, the best things to eat or the best places to shop or the best makeup to buy or whatever it may be. Yet at the same time, it seems like women are so hard on each other and so hard on every decision that we make from big to small. And it makes me sad. And I saw in one of my comments on the YouTube video the other day, when I was talking about this, a woman wrote in and said she was grateful that I was speaking on this subject, and she feels that women's health in general is very under-researched and stigmatized. And I could not agree more. So when someone leaves a comment to say that cycle syncing is, under-researched, I think a lot of us can say women's healthcare, women's health, women's bodies are already incredibly under-researched. So when I read the more, critiqued comment of this is a under research trend. Looking back at the history of even things like medical trials and all of that, women are commonly left out. And I've started to do my research into this more. I've started to do research on certain trials and the percentages of male to female. Women are often left out, especially women who do have a menstrual cycle, because we don't know how certain things will affect fertility. And sometimes it truly feels like that's all a woman is good for, right? So we can't be a part of certain research trials because, heaven forbid, it would affect our fertility, which to some people that is a huge thing. I myself went through a whole infertility journey with my ex-husband, and it was, you know, I still don't talk about it very often these days. I like mention it, but I've never once actually gone into the full story of what that did and what that time looked like in my life, because it was horrible and it was sad. There are also a lot of women that have made the decision for one reason or another, whatever it may be, that they, you know, don't want children. So, I mean, that's, you know, a whole other topic. But on the whole, I most definitely agree that women's health is very under-researched. So I applaud everyone who is looking into it in the past, you know, decade or so, now, who will going forward, and is trying to make more sense of it. I applaud everyone doing that. I applaud everyone talking about it and their experience and what they've tried, because on the flip side, all we're going to do is keep following what's already out there, and we're going to keep following research that is best based on the male body. And the male and the female body are different. Hormones are different, and all of that. So again, if the majority of studies and research that you want to follow are, you know, the double blind and all of that that's already been out there, that is once again focused on the male and his patterns, great. But I don't want to do that, and I would rather try things that are considered new or alternative, because I can see changes and differences in them. If you try something and it doesn't work out for you, great. Then don't keep doing that. If whatever you're doing right now is working for you, keep doing that. But what I was doing was not working out for me, so I tried something new and it's working out for me. So I'm gonna keep doing that. Boils down to me, what cycle syncing boils down to is you are changing your routines based on where you are at in your menstrual cycle. Understanding when certain hormones are rising or falling, understanding when times where you might not feel as much energy because of it, when you might be feeling more energy because of that. It puts an emphasis on listening to your body, understanding your body, and getting clues based on how you feel, but also things like your cervical mucus can tell you so much about your body and where you are at. Like, I had no idea. Not something that was taught to me in school. Hormone health was not something that was ever taught to me. So it's teaching you about your hormones, your body, how that can change your mood, your body, your cravings, etc. It teaches you about food and what foods are best to eat at what certain points in your cycle. And it focuses on real food, not just processed food, not fast food, but when's best to incorporate certain red meats or lean meats, when to incorporate certain vegetables or fruits, when dark chocolate is a good option, eggs, all of that. So it puts an emphasis on learning food education as well. And then it puts an emphasis on working out and fitness. And maybe at these different points in your cycle, this workout is best to try. Or maybe it's best to rest on these days. Maybe it's best to amp it up on these days. Again, all based on where your hormones are at in your system. What is rising, what is falling, what you have more of, what you have low of. So it puts an emphasis on working out. So this is a method that focuses on teaching you about your body and what's happening on the inside. Teaches you about food and food that is good for you. And teaches you about fitness and putting an emphasis on working out. I don't see how any of those are bad things. So whether you want to believe or not in cycle syncing, or say it's a trend, or say it's not researched enough, at the end of the day, this This method wants you to focus on your body, your health, your diet, and your lifestyle. I can't figure out what is so negative about that. And really, when it comes down to cycle syncing, there wasn't a whole lot that I had to change very drastically from what I was already doing before. I've always been really into fitness. I had already started to change my diet, again, based on PCOS symptoms, and already kind of struggling with food beforehand. Really, the most amount of work and research that I did was learning about my hormones at different phases in my cycles and what that meant. So just wanted to throw all that out there, and food for thought and all of that. And again, as I say, if it's something that works for you, great. If you've tried it and you don't like it or it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Everyone's going to be different. Something's going to work different for everybody. So that was my little caveat that I wanted to share before we jump into it. But I wanted to focus this one on fitness, because fitness is kind of like my theme for July, if you will. So every month on my website, which is by samanthamarch.com, every other month, I do a free Healthy Habits calendar download, and each month has a theme. The month of July was fitness focused. So every day has a new either like fitness challenge, journal prompt, something along those lines. We have an Instagram group chat where we check in with each other and let us know, how we're doing on our goals and keep each other motivated. So I wanted to have a whole podcast episode on how I changed my fitness routine and what my workout split, if you will, looks like in the cycle syncing method. So I will say that I have been someone who has always kind of geared towards Pilates and then yoga. Pilates kind of was my first love back in high school. I found out I had really high cholesterol, and my doctor suggested that I should work out more. So I started doing daily walks with my mom, and then I also went to Blockbuster and rented a Pilates DVD. Showed my age. But I loved it, and I continued to do Pilates through the rest of my high school. It continued over to college. Shape magazine had these DVDs that you could buy that felt like I had a whole slew of them. One was just focused on legs, and one was focused on arms, and one was focused on abs, and then they had like a total body one. And through each day of the week, I would just like, Monday was arms, Tuesday was legs, Wednesday was abs, Thursday was full body, Friday I took a break, and that's what I did all through college. And that's kind of what I always tended to gravitate towards. I would try different things here and there. For a spell, I was really into kickboxing, Billy Blanks, but for the most part, I've been very active. I worked at a gym at one point, so being active has always been something that's really important to me, and I have always found it really beneficial to my mental health. I'm someone who has struggled with mental health my entire life, and I feel like 30 minutes of working out, an hour of working out, of not having to be with my own thoughts, I guess, is very calming to me. And I can notice, because of course, over the years, there's times where I really cut back on working out, or I don't work out, or, you go through a crisis and you can't, you're busy, whatever. I can definitely tell those times when I'm not working out on a regular basis, because my mental health definitely suffers. So when I was in my early 20s, early to mid 20s, I also got really into yoga. I was someone who was always very against yoga. I used to be such a negative Nelly. Okay. When people would talk about yoga and their love for it, how centering it was, and they learned so much about themselves and their body, I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, there she goes again. It's hilarious, because to look back on like 23-year-old Samantha, if I would be saying like I'm really into cycle syncing, I would think I was a loon as well. So that's how I used to be. And I actually very much credit yoga for changing my mindset. Once I started to practice yoga on a regular basis, I did start to understand what people would say about being in tune with your body. As I got more advanced into yoga, like I did classes, I started an Instagram account with my friend. It's how I got onto Instagram, was as a yoga account. And I would get more advanced, and some of these poses that you were doing, I was especially very much into handstands. You really have to be present. I can't be thinking about 10 different things. I can't be wondering about anything else. I am solely focusing. I used to do handstands over my dog who's to the side of me. that was somewhat terrifying. I did not want to fall on my dog. So, you know, you have to be so focused when you're holding your legs in these certain positions, when you're balancing on your arms or on your elbows or your head, you have to be completely focused. And I really noticed what that did to my body and my mind-body connection. It was not something I ever would have believed until I actually tried it. So over the years, I started to change my mindset of like, maybe I shouldn't be so negative towards something if I've never actually tried it. And it was something that I really took away from for when my friends were telling me something and my mind would immediately want to think like, oh my gosh, like that's so crazy. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, you haven't tried it, so you don't know. So yoga changed a lot for me, and I'm super grateful that there was a time that I would go upstairs in my house. I had a space where I had my yoga mat and all of my yoga blocks and straps and everything. And I would go up there for at least an hour every single day and practice. I would record myself so I could watch myself back to see my form. I did yoga challenges, I hosted yoga challenges, and I credit a lot to my yoga days. Before I made my move to Las Vegas, kind of what my workouts were looking like was in the morning I would wake up, I would do a lot of stretching. I particularly have issues with like my wrists, especially when I do a lot of arm balances. My wrists feel quite sore. So I make sure to do a lot of stretches. Then I would do a yoga routine, and then I would do some more like, not necessarily really high intensity because I've never been into high intensity, but I would do a more high level workout. Sometimes I would incorporate weights, things like that, and then a cool down, and then I'd go on with my day. And then I did that pretty steadily for a couple of years. I had a whole routine down. I typically was doing like Boho Beautiful for yoga and then Blogilates for something else. And I really liked Blogilates because she made calendars as well. And I would follow her calendar. This day we did this video, then we did this video. And I just felt like I was getting a good solid workout every morning. Again, it took me about an hour every morning. I moved to Las Vegas in April of 2021, and I moved into an apartment complex where they have a gym. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. I'm not a big gym person. Being around people kind of freaks me out. I don't like people watching me. Even though I know no one's watching me, they're doing their own thing, but like in my mind, I'm like, everyone's staring at me, staring at my form. I don't do group classes very often because of it. I just prefer to work out in the comfort of my own home. But I was like, I have this gym, I should use it. I also started getting really invested on TikTok, and it seemed like I was getting fed so many videos of girls in the gym like lifting really heavy weights and these heavy dumbbells and all these machines, and I really admired their bodies. I'm someone who has been quite thin my whole life, and what I would say like kind of shapeless, just, you know, like a stick figure most of the time. I've never, it's funny because I look back, just the other day I was looking back at some old photos, and I saw a photo of me from like 2019, and I was like, I had a little girl's body. And it's not that it's a bad thing, it just, I never really felt very like womanly. And in clothes that I would wear, I just I just wanted to look more like the girls that I was seeing on TikTok. And that also, I've been through over this with my therapist and in my own journaling as well, of why was I feeling that at the time? What was I really not happy with? You know, was it my body? Was it something else? Was it, you know, I'm coming off a hard time. I just put my body through fertility treatments. Now I'm divorced. I'm starting over in a new state. I'm all alone, all these things. But for whatever reason, all of that played out of, I don't like my body and I want to change it. So I became very fixated on going to the gym every day for hours at a time. Even though I was not, like I said, not into like high intensity workouts, I was running on the treadmill. I was doing like the Stairmaster every single day for 20 minutes at a time. I was doing more cardio, like jump roping, and I started to lift really heavy weights too. And around that time, it's when things started to change. And I never want to make it seem like I'm blaming like weightlifting or cardio for this, because I those are not what is to blame. Basically, it was just kind of like a perfect storm of an extreme hormone imbalance. Most likely, my doctor said, from being on birth control, off birth control, into fertility medications, off them, back onto birth control. I mean, I put my hormones through so much, and looking back, if I would have been more aware of hormone health and what that actually looks like, I think I would have made some decisions very differently, but I didn't know. And something like birth control is what's recommended all of the time. I mean, I sneeze and a doctor's like, well, maybe you should go on birth control. I'm like, oh, my big toe hurts. Maybe you should go on birth control. I just was never educated on what actually was going on inside of my body. So it's like, oh yeah, birth control. Okay, I'll go on it. I'll go off it. I'll go on it again. Then I'll go off it again. Like, let's add infertility. Why not? Like, I think I would have made different decisions if I realized the impact of what it was doing on my body. So I have this hormone imbalance going on, which includes extremely elevated cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So when I had my cortisol level checks, they were off to the charts high. So then when I go back to my doctor and I'm talking to her about this, who is a naturopathic doctor, she said, when my cortisol and my stress is already so high, doing something like weightlifting is actually spiking the cortisol as well. So say, you know, prior to having this extreme hormone imbalance, if I would have started to incorporate this weightlifting, I maybe would have had very different results. But because of the time that I was in right then and where my levels were at, all my hormones were at, it was like one of the worst things that I could have been doing at that time. Was every time I was going to the gym, I was spiking cortisol levels again, which was in tune affecting other hormones like testosterone and progesterone, and everything was just out of whack. So my doctor was telling me, I think you should go into more low impact work, and she suggested Pilates or yoga, walking, and I was like, those were all things that I really loved doing prior. Again, I liked that I tried it. I liked that I tried something new. I liked that I had a goal in mind and was like, I'm gonna go for it. But I never really got on with the really heavy weightlifting and the really high intensity cardio. Like sometimes after doing the cardio, like I would want to throw up. I don't really like that feeling. I didn't love the feeling of like not being able to walk downstairs without feeling like I was going to die, or like sitting down to go to the bathroom and feeling like I was going to pass out. I didn't love the way it made my body feel, and some people love it because they love those feelings, and that's totally fine. Everyone's different and you have to do what works for you. But I would find myself creating excuses not to go to the gym because I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't like that workout routine that I was on, versus something like what I was doing when I was doing the Boho Beautiful yoga and the Pilates. I did that every single day for years straight because I loved it. Weightlifting, I did it for a couple of months and was like, okay, how can I get out of this today? What should I tell myself today in order to excuse myself from the gym? And again, going to be different for everybody. I have plenty of friends who that's what they love to do and that's what works for them. It's what makes them happy, and it's what makes them want to keep working out. That's, to me, that's just one of the most important things, because I so highly believe in exercise for health, for hormone health, for mental health. You have to find what you really love, so that way that keeps you motivated to keep at it. So just because something didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. Just because something works for me doesn't mean it will work for you. So once hearing that from my doctor, I felt like it almost gave me permission to change it up, because I was so focused. I was like, no, this is my goal. Like, I need to keep doing it. It will work out. So what I started doing was actually adding on more. I was doing like 2 hours in the gym a day, lifting even heavier weights. Like, I have TikToks where I'm like lifting like 35-pound weights because I'm like, you're going to do it. You're going to change your body. But again, because of what was happening inside, it was actually just all going wrong. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'll go back to incorporating some daily walks. Like, I love walking outside. It's something I've always done, like with my dog, mostly because she's super high energy, but having her made me fall in love with walking outside. So went back to walking and doing my Boho Beautiful yoga and finding some other accounts that I really love that do Pilates, and still incorporating strength training here and there. And I felt a lot better. And it was also something that not only physically did I feel better, but mentally I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what workout like Move with Nicole has uploaded today, because I really like her Pilates workouts. You know, I found myself getting more motivated to work out again. So then I start to stumble onto cycle syncing, and I'm trying to understand what this is. And there are certain workouts that are recommended at certain times of your menstrual cycle. Again, because of the rise and fall of your hormones and all of that. But I was like, you know what? I'll try it. I'm someone who really loves a schedule. Again, like when I talk about like workout splits, like even back in college, was this day was arms, this day was legs, then abs, then total body. Like I kind of like having things planned out for me, so I don't wake up and be like, what to do today? Like I like that I already know ahead of time. So your menstrual cycle is broken down into 4 different phases. I touched on this in last week's episode. So starting with day 1, this is day 1 that you get your period, and this is your menstrual phase. For a lot of women, not everyone, but for a lot of women in their menstrual phase, you're just not feeling the greatest. You might be suffering from PMS symptoms like cramps, back pain, but you just might have low energy and you're just like not feeling up for it. I know for me, I usually just kind of consider those like my lazy days. So what's recommended in cycle syncing during your menstrual phase is basically like this is your cool down period, if you will, your rest period. This is where you can focus on, you know, stretching routines. I think stretching routines are really important. I have those multiple times in my July calendar. You can do some light yoga, or even just walking. Again, I think walking is super important. I have a certain step count goal that I try to reach every single day. So walking is really great, whether it's outside, whether it's on the treadmill. This morning, it's so hot where I live. I live in Las Vegas. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it was 93 degrees. So it's really hard for me to walk outside right now. So I like to use the treadmill at the gym, and I do 12-3-30, which is 30 minutes on the treadmill at a 3 speed and a 12% incline. It's pretty popular. I saw it on TikTok as well. But it's what I enjoy. I'm very sweaty at the end, and I just feel like I feel like I got it in. So those are some of the things that you can focus on during your menstrual phase, and just kind of, again, just relaxing, taking care of yourself, a little bit more focus on like self-care, if you will. And then next up we go into the follicular phase. And one thing I'll say too with this is I'm not super strict on like my period ended, I need to go right into follicular phase exercises. I just go off of what feels best for my body. There are some days, you know, in the ovulation phase is when I focus the most on strength training. But even after my ovulation phase is over and I should be winding down, I'm like, you know what? I still got good. I'm going to do a couple more days of strength training because that's what I feel like. It doesn't have to be, boom, the day your period ends, you go into this, boom, the day your period starts, you're not working out anymore. I'm not super strict by any means. It's just kind of like a guide. But moving into the follicular phase, basically it just turns into this circle or this cycle. So you start, you know, slow, you start small, and then you slowly start to ramp it up. So for me personally, who prefers yoga and Pilates, this is when I go into some more advanced yoga, or this is when I go into some more Pilates routines, and just kind of slowly, like my energy levels are starting to rise once again, feeling a little bit more like, you know, get up and go when I wake up in the morning. So those are the exercises that I start to incorporate then. Again, I'll start to add in some weights. I like to do especially a lot of what's called like the deep core, the deep pelvic exercises. And I really like to incorporate these with weights. It's something that I do actually every single day. There's between like 5 and 7 exercises that I do, and I always have my weights with me. I feel like because I'm not a huge fan of weightlifting for myself, some people take that as like I also don't do any sort of strength training, or like I don't believe in weights at all. I have free weights at my apartment. I use them literally every single day. Every single day with those deep core exercises that I do, I feel it even more when I use weights. And I think weights are a great way to be able to change your muscles as well. I just use either like 5-pound or 10-pound. I'm no longer doing like the 35-pound dumbbells that I used to do. So right after your period ends is your follicular phase. This is before ovulation. So I'm starting to amp up the workouts a little bit. And then about halfway through your cycle is your ovulation phase. So this is the time where your body is releasing an egg. This is where if you are trying to get pregnant, it's the best time. If you're not trying to get pregnant, run away. And this is typically where your energy levels are going to be at the highest. I talked in, and I think I mentioned it in last week's podcast episode, but I also did a short on it, of how your cycle is also broken down into different seasons. Your menstrual being winter, follicular being spring, and then ovulation being summer. So you're kind of feeling like you're most social, like you want to get out there, like woo, you know, all of that. So ovulation is typically when you have the most energy. And again, this is not going to be true for everybody, but I know for me, during this time, I feel like I can just crush it in the gym. This is when I actually do like to go to the gym versus at-home workouts, because I just feel like this weird burst of energy every time during this month. It's the time where I want to be out more, like I'm making more dinner plans. Maybe I'm even going to the club. I feel like more confident in my body, all of those things. So during the ovulation phase, this is when I really get into more strength training. So this is when basically every day my workouts are focused around weights. So arm workouts with dumbbells, or going into the gym and using some of the machines that we have there, you know, leg or butt workout, again, incorporating dumbbells. For about a week, I think ovulation technically is like 4 to 5 days. I usually take a week and really focus on those weighted exercises. Again, I do strength training pretty much every single day with my dumbbells at home, but this is where I really amp it up even more. And this is also where I focus more on cardio as well. So I follow a channel called Mad Fit. She has some great workouts that are dumbbell and cardio like mixed together, and I really feel like when I do those, this is where I might do like some light jogging on, we have those treadmills at the gym where it's kind of like your speed, you know, it's just like the revolving belt, you kind of run at your speed, or I'll do the Stairmaster. And this is also where I like to do a little bit heavier lifting. Again, I have the 5 and 10 pound dumbbells at my home, but in the gym, I'll do like a 20 pound kettlebell. I'll do like a kettlebell series or things like that. So that week is really when I have the most, you know, intensity when it comes to my workouts. And then after the ovulation phase and before you get your period again is the luteal phase. So this is where I start to come back down. So that's why I say it's just a circle. So this is when I'm doing things like reformer Pilates, which I really love, going back to some more advanced yoga. And each day it just kind of, again, it's not like super specific, like each day is well, but over those few days, I start to wind down a little bit more. So right before I get my period, I'm kind of back on the yoga and Pilates, and then we get the period and I go back into my rest phase. So I really like the way that this was broken up because it's really simple for me to follow. It's really simple for me to plan out my workout split for the week. I like that it includes rest days because I will say that I have struggled in the past with almost like fitness addictions, like workout addictions, where, I mean, I can remember times in my life I would work out heavily like 3 times a day. Like I would do a Jillian Michaels 30-day shred, I would do a Billy Blanks, then I would do like a Pilates workout all in one day. I am someone who can get very fixated on things and like really go for them. And in life, because I love fitness so much, that's definitely sometimes can consume me. Again, even when I was weightlifting and I wasn't hitting my goals, I just pushed myself more and more and more and more without stopping to think like, why am I gaining so much weight doing this? Why do I feel like crap every single day? Why am I not able to eat? Like, I didn't stop to think maybe something else was going on. I just was thinking I'm not working hard enough, so I need to work harder. So I really like that this incorporates those rest days or the more slow days, because that's something I can struggle to put in for myself. And again, it's almost like having that permission to be able to cut back, to slow down. And I wish I didn't think that way. I wish I didn't feel like I mentally had to like give myself permission to not work out. But doing this is like, okay, I have my period. Let's just focus on me. Let's just sit inside with my dog and, you know, just relax and chill and read a book and have a good shower and journal and all of those things. And I can really appreciate that. Again, this is something like a workout split that I've been doing for just about a year now, and it's worked out really well for me. I enjoy that it allows me to really hit all of the things that I love between the Pilates and the yoga and the strength training and the resting. And to me, it works. And so whatever it is that works best for you, or whatever workouts that you really love to incorporate, if you can find ways to incorporate them into something like cycle syncing and it's something you're interested in trying, go for it. If all of this just sounds like absolutely wild to you, that's fine too. If you love what you're doing, keep at it. But I wanted to share, again, just my personal experience with cycle syncing and how that has changed my workouts and what it looks like now, and why I like it so much and feel like it's really worked out for me. One thing too that I wanted to end it off with, because I got a question about inflammation from last week's episode that I did. So I just wanted to touch on this one real quick before we wrap up. But someone asked, did you follow a particular inflammation plan? I'm looking for one. Also, how do you know when you are experiencing inflammation? So I actually didn't realize that I was struggling with inflammation until I got my labs back and they were read to me by a naturopathic doctor, because I didn't really understand what that meant or what that looked like. And now I can definitely start to understand. The word that I would use is that I felt, and also felt like I looked puffy. It wasn't just that I thought I was like gaining weight, which I did. I gained 30 pounds in 3 months, but I just felt puffed from my fingers to my face to my ankles. Swollen and puffy was how I would describe myself. I mean, I was extremely bloated. My stomach was distended every single day from the time I woke up, from the time I went to sleep. It didn't matter what I ate, what I drank, what my bathroom schedule looked like. I was bloated all of the time. Again, puffy, swollen, inflamed. And I did an appointment early on before, I think I had my labs drawn, but I hadn't had them back yet and read to me. And I started to look for lymphatic drainage in my area. This was something that I had seen like recommended on TikTok, and it helps with inflammation. And so I found this lymphatic drainage area where they do not only lymphatic drainage, which is, it's kind of like a massage on the body, but you are helping your lymphatic system to drain properly, because sometimes it is not. For me, it definitely was not. That first appointment that I went to, when I was laying on my stomach, the woman goes, oh, I can see it in your lymph nodes. You have lymph nodes behind your knees. She took photos for me so I could understand what she was saying. They were swollen. I didn't realize there was a huge bump on the back of each of my knees. And she was basically saying your lymphatic system is not draining properly as it should. So through hands and other modalities, they are kind of manually moving your lymphatic system and helping it drain into like the backs of your knees. You have lymph nodes like near your groin, your armpits, different areas like that. A lot of people talk about lymphatic drainage massages that they do for their face, and you first open up lymph nodes like in your neck, next to your nose, your ears, and then you can massage and again manually help your lymphatic system that way. So that lymphatic drainage was the first appointment that I did in the quest of like seeing if anything worked. And when I tell you, it was an immediate night and day difference. That first night after getting lymphatic drainage, I was able to eat properly for the first time in months. I left that appointment and I thought, man, this is so weird. I feel something, but I don't know what it is that I feel. I felt hungry. I had lost what the feeling of hunger felt like, because I was so full and bloated and inflamed for so long. I had lost the sensation of what hunger felt like. I was eating just because I knew it's noon, I should eat lunch. It's 6 o'clock, I should eat dinner. I had lost that feeling of hunger. It actually took me minutes to figure out what I was feeling. So lymphatic drainage is something that I continue to do every single month. I'll see if I can add in some photos in the YouTube video to show like before and afters. You are pretty much naked during it. I mean, you have like little things covering you, but if I can find like a proper photo that I can put online, I will show you my before and afters, because I think you will be able to see in my before photo that my body was swollen, just swollen. And that came from inflammation. So another thing that I started to do as well was to cut out inflammatory foods in my diet. And this is processed foods, high sugar foods, refined sugar, caffeine, alcohol, different things like that. I did the elimination diet for a while, but also just as a whole, I try to have a more anti-inflammatory diet and also bring in foods that are anti-inflammatory. So that, you know, maybe I could just do a whole podcast episode on this, because it was something I would like to research it a little bit more before I do a full podcast episode, but it's been definitely very eye-opening. Also, inflammation is a huge like leading cause of a lot of other problems, a lot of other very serious health issues as well. And that was something that I didn't realize. So taking out as many inflammatory foods as I can, adding in anti-inflammatory foods is great for me. Also making sure that I'm getting enough like minerals and nutrients. So I was really deficient in a lot of different things, but like zinc, magnesium is a big thing that a lot of people are deficient in. That is something that can really contribute to helping keep inflammation down as well. So honestly, the more that I talk about this, the more that I've decided that I want to do a whole episode on it, but I want to do a lot of research. I want to talk to my doctor as well, so I can come at you with facts and also my experience, of course. And like I say, this is not what I'm trained in. I'm not certified in this. I like to give my experience, but this is actually something, since I have been researching it so much more, it's something that I would like to bring on a wider scale. So if you just saw me in the video, pick up my pen, because I just want to make a note to myself that I want to do. It might not be next week's episode, but I will do a whole video on this. I will talk about the anti-inflammatory foods and like a diet to follow. I'm really excited. I'm excited to talk about this a little bit more, and also to learn for myself a little bit more. But that was something that I did. Lymphatic drainage. You can also do lymphatic drainage at home, cutting out inflammatory foods and incorporating anti-inflammatory foods, and also looking at the supplements, especially things like magnesium. I highly recommend. It's affordable, it's accessible. Probably a reason why it's not talked about a lot is because Big Pharma can't do anything about it, because it's a natural mineral. So, you know, there's a lot that you can go down a rabbit hole there as well, but that's not what this podcast is for, and that is where we will end it. So if you do have any other questions on cycle syncing as well, or inflammation, anything like that, or any of your experiences that you would want to share, I know a lot of people look at the comment section as well, so that's always really helpful. I'm happy to answer any more questions, and I will definitely put together this podcast episode based around inflammation and how you can understand if you might be dealing with it as well. I want to check with my doctor on which exact labs it was that she was able to come to the conclusion as well, and all of that. So I'm looking forward to this episode now, and I hope that it's helpful, and I hope that you found this one helpful as well. Again, just like to share my experience. I like to share what I've gone through, what works for me, what didn't work for me, some things that you might want to try, some different things to think about, and all of that. So thank you so much for watching or for listening to this episode of Start Inspired, and I'll see you in the next one.